Welcome to the Folktale Project. This is Dan Scholes. Today we have another North American folktale for you. This story comes to us from Myths and Legends of the Great Plains, brought together by Katharine Judson. This text is a nice collection of Native American tales from the United States, and it's broken down by tribe. This story is one that, I can't ever seem to pass up an origin story or creation story, can I? This is the Cherokee story of how the world was made. The earth is a great floating island in a sea of water. At each of the four corners there is a cord hanging down from the sky. The sky is of solid rock. When the world grows old and worn out, the cords will break, and then the earth will sink down into the ocean. Everything will be water again. All the people will be dead. The Indians are much afraid of this. In the long time ago, when everything was all water, all the animals lived up above, in Galan-la-dee, beyond the stone arch that made the sky. But it was very much crowded. All the animals wanted more room. The animals began to wonder what was below the water, and at last Beaver's grandchild, little Water Beetle, offered to go and find out. Water Beetle darted in every direction over the surface of the water, but it could find no place to rest. There was no land at all. Then Water Beetle dived to the bottom of the water and brought up some soft mud. This began to grow and spread out on every side until it became the island, which we call Earth. Afterwards, this earth was fastened to the sky with four cords, but no one remembers who did this. At first, the earth was flat and soft and wet. The animals were anxious to get down, and they sent out different birds to see if it was yet dry, but there was no place to alight, so the birds came back to Galan-la-dee. Then, at last, it seemed to be time again, so they sent out Buzzard. They told him to go and make ready for them. This was the great buzzard, the father of all the buzzards we see now. He flew all over the earth, low down near the ground, and it was still soft. When he reached the Cherokee country, he was very tired. His wings began to flap and strike the ground. Wherever they struck the earth there was a valley. Wherever the wings turned upwards again, there was a mountain. When the animals above saw this, they were afraid that the whole world would be mountains, so they called him back. But the Cherokee country remains full of mountains to this day. When the earth was dry and the animals came down, it was still dark. Therefore, they got the sun and set it in a track to go every day across the island from east to west just overhead. It was too hot this way. Red Crawfish had his shell scorched a bright red so that his meat was spoiled. Therefore, the Cherokees do not eat it. Then the medicine men raised the sun a hand's breadth in the air, but it was still too hot. They raised it another time, and then another time. At last, they had raised it 7 hands' breadths so that it was just under the sky arch. Then it was right, and they left it so. That is why the medicine men called the high place the 7th height. Every day, the sun goes along under this arch on the underside. It returns at night to the upper side of the arch to its starting place. There is another world under this earth. It is like this one in every way. The animals, the plants, and the people are the same, but the seasons are different. The streams that come down from the mountains are the trails by which we reach this underworld. The springs at their head are the doorways by which we enter it, but in order to enter the other world one must fast, and then go to the water, and have one of the underground people for a guide. We know that the seasons in the underground world are different because the water in the spring is always warmer in winter than the air in this world, and in summer the water is cooler. We do not know who made the first plants and animals, but when they were made, they were told to watch and keep awake for 7 nights. This is the way young men do now when they fast and pray to their medicine. They tried to do this. The first night nearly all the animals stayed awake. The next night several of them dropped to sleep. The third night still more went to sleep. At last, on the 7th night only the owl, the panther, and 1 or 2 more were still awake. Therefore to these were given the power to see in the dark, to go about as if it were day, and kill and eat the animals and birds which must sleep during the night. Even some of the trees went to sleep. Only the cedar, the pine, the spruce, the holly, and the laurel were awake all 7 nights. Therefore they are always green. They are also sacred trees. But to the other trees it was said, because you did not stay awake, therefore you shall lose your hair every winter. After the plants and the animals, men came to the earth. At first there was only 1 man and 1 woman. He hit her with a fish. In 7 days a little child came down to the earth. So people came to the earth. They came so rapidly that for a time it seemed as though the earth could not hold them all. And that is the Cherokee tale of how the world was made. I love this one. I mean, I love all creation stories. There's something about them that really just gets me, but this one in particular I love because it is the very first creation story that I've seen that doesn't know where the first plants and animals and men came from, and explicitly says it. We do not know who made the first plants and animals. I love that. I love this acceptance of we don't really know. There's something, force, person, we don't know, that made them, but this is how they were able to see in the dark. And I just really enjoy that. This is Dan Scholes for the Folktale Project. Don't forget that you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, Overcast, anywhere you like to get your podcasts. You can follow us on Twitter at Folktale Project. You can find us on Auto Radio, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, anywhere you like to listen. And you can always head over to folktaleproject.com, where you'll find a new story waiting for you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Don't forget, if you'd like to help support the podcast, you can always head over to patreon.com/folktaleproject, where for as little as $1 a month, you'll get early access to every story told, and a little something special from me. As always, thank you so much for listening.